Hello and welcome back to the Bass Channel. My name's Dave and today we're looking at the TE1200 amplifier from Trace Elliot. You heard that right, TE1200. 1200 as in 1200 watts of power. As long as you're running a 4 ohm load, this thing produces 1200 watts, and that's not peak, that's 1200 watts RMS. Before we get into the amp specs, this is the Trace Elliot 2x12 Pro cabinet, and one of the cool features is that it's got sort of its own road case. It's got a cover that fits into the grill, and I've never seen that before. That's pretty neat. We do have a quick point of information, kind of point of transparency or something like that for everybody out there watching this video. We're going to show all the tones in here, both flat, that is with all knobs at noon, and then kind of dialed in for the optimal tone. We're also going to be showing both DI tones and mic'd tones. Several of the features of this amp are foot switchable. It comes with a 4-button MIDI foot switch that lets you control muting, turning on and off the pre-shape, turning on and off the compressor, and also turning on and off the effects loop, which has its own level control. One trademark Trace Elliot thing here is the pre-shape button. You've seen it on other Trace Elliot products. You've got a dedicated foot switch or front panel button for it on this. I could over-explain what pre-shape does, kind of tightens up your bass, makes it sound like this or that, but let's just show you. This is Josh playing just with everything flat, pre-shape off, and then the pre-shape on. And you'll get the point. The compressor, as mentioned, has its low band and high band controls separated. It's essentially giving you completely separate control over how much compression each band gets. So if you turn up the low band knob, you're going to get more compression on the lows. If you turn up the high band, you're going to get more compression on the highs. One thing that we noticed is there doesn't seem to be much in the way of makeup gain, so as you squash more, each respective band might get a little quieter in the relative mix. Because of this, you can really have extra tone shaping abilities above and beyond the EQ, or even before you start touching the EQ, just by balancing the lows and highs with the compressor. Another note about the compressor is that the top button in between the compressor band knobs turns the compressor on and off, but the bottom one in between the mid knobs in the EQ section actually changes the compressor's position in the chain, putting it before or after the EQ. So I mentioned that there's a 4-band EQ, and I know somebody's wondering. The bands for the EQ, the bass knob is 70 Hertz, low mid and high mid are 600 Hertz and 2K, and the treble knob is 5K. Hey, look at that. We spun the amp around to the back panel where you can see a vast assortment of, well, kind of samey stuff with a couple of unique differences. First off, you've got 2 parallel output jacks for speakers. They are both 1/4 inch and speak on. The effects loop is just mono, it's just 1 send and 1 return, and you've got a switchable effects level. You've got high or low. It does have a preamp out and a power amp in if you want to combine this with, an additional amplifier setup. And of course, it's got a D out. The DI out has 2 buttons associated with it. One is, of course, your ground lift, but the other switches the DI pre and post. So you can have a totally dry DI output, or you can have a fully affected, preamped to high heaven DI output if you like. Rounding out the features, we've got a 1/4 inch tuner out jack, we've got a USB output jack for recording, and we've got MIDI. One of the MIDI jacks is actually used for the foot switch because the foot switch is a MIDI foot switch. So this is, like I said, the Trace Pro 2x12. This is a big, chunky, heavy boy. It uses 15 millimeter plywood, which is pretty damn thick, and it weighs 90 pounds. So the head is still roughly compact. It's a 2-rack unit. You can put rack ears on it. And the head only weighs 20 pounds. Now, I say only 20 pounds because, again, the cabinet weighs 90 pounds. So it is not a lightweight, but as a result, it's, number one, it's not going anywhere. And number two, the frequency response seems to be just dead true. Not a whole lot of coloration, where 12s can sound a little boxy, they can sound a little woofy and weird in the high mids or top end. I think that this is kind of just dead flat. What you put in is what you're going to get out. Don't get me wrong, not all 12s sound bad, but in cabinets, 12-inch speakers seem to have kind of the most finicky or inconsistent response. It all depends on, the cabinet construction and everything, but this, for being a 2x12, is just very straightforward, straight ahead sound. The cabinet, even though it is heavy and thus not terribly easy to move, it is kind of packed with little quality of life features, which make it nice. There's a divot for the head to sit in so it doesn't slide around or slide off if you tilt it a little bit or what have you. It's got feet on the bottom and the sides, so you can use it vertically or horizontally without damaging anything, ripping up the coating. The feet on the sides are also offset with little indentations so that you can actually stack two of these on top of each other and they won't slide around. And remember earlier when I mentioned the cover on the front that snaps into place to make it feel kind of like the cab's in its own little road case? That is actually magnetically attached, so you can just pull it off, set it off to the side, and then after your gig or recording session's done, just slide it right back on. No tools, no fuss. It's a pretty cool thing that I wish more people would do. All right, what did we think of this amp now that you've learned all about it along with us? We've run so many players and basses and riffs through this thing, we can kind of form a consolidated opinion, yes? It's really loud. Some of the stuff we had to actually, Chris had to mic the cab and then go in a different room in order to do the recording. Usually we can at least do that in the same room or in the studio right adjacent to the control room. This we had to go and put it in a closet so as not to blow our own eardrums out while we were recording some of these. And in my own personal opinion, I think pre-shape is friggin' great, but it doesn't necessarily work for all scenarios, for all sounds, for all everything you're going for. Like I mentioned before, I'm a sucker for the color button on the MXR M80 preamp, and pre-shape gives me kind of a lot of that, yes, this is what I want to hear out of bass. But again, your mileage may vary. You may love it. You may hate it. You may go, oh, hey, finally another full-size amplifier from TE that's got pre-shape in it. Just let us know in the comments what you think of that feature and, of course, of the amp itself in general. Talking pros and cons for the EQ. The EQ being 4-band is nothing new, but these are new, at least to us, new EQ points. One thing that we really liked is the fact that the high-mid knob is at 2K. It gives you this presence, it gives you this clarity, it gives you just absolutely slice through the mix and pop out in front of anything. But with the low knob being at 70 hertz center and the low-mid knob being at 600 hertz, it kind of can feel like you're missing something, like there's a dip or a hollow in the lower low-mids, say 300 hertz, 250 hertz, something like that. Your mileage may vary and you may be able to, dial that in, but it's just one of the things that we noticed because of where those two EQ points are. That said, that low knob being at 70 hertz instead of 100 hertz means that, you can push a whole bunch of watts with that bass knob turned up and rattle anything you'd like to rattle. You want to shake the pants off of everybody in the front row? Turn up that knob and turn up the volume. So I think that's going to do it for me and this TE1200 amplifier. Once again, my name's Dave. This is the Bass Channel. If you liked it, subscribe. If you hated it, unsubscribe. If you want to get one of these for yourself, check out the affiliate links below to our friends at Zounds. And otherwise, that's about it. So for the Bass Channel, this is Dave signing off saying be safe, and we'll see you next time.